Hi everybody, I want to thank you for joining us yesterday for the third annual IMSH Arcade and Showcase. And I'm here today with Dr. Ben DeVane, a colleague of mine from graduate school and the Games Learning Society, who currently works at the University of Florida Digital
Worlds Institute.
Yes,
there we go.
There we go. I
Tag team.
finally gotten it down with his help. And Ben was kind enough to come down and act as our lead judge for the event. And we want to ask Ben some questions and see what he thought about the third annual event, and point out that he was with us in New Orleans a couple of years ago, and we're very happy to have him on board today.
Nice. All right, thank you very much, Eric.
So Ben, what did you think about the types of technologies and game-based learning and virtual environments that you saw at today's event?
No, I think that we had some really impressive set of submissions. We saw a lot of people working with a lot of different technologies, ranging from like commercial game engines like Unity 3D to web-based technologies with branching narratives. People working in multiplayer environments versus single player, people working on iPads versus straight-up PC interfaces. And so I think what we saw was a real diversity in terms of how people are conceptualizing games in virtual environments in the simulation space.
So you were at the first annual arcade or showcase that was in New Orleans, and of course that was a great time. So how have you seen the event grow from the first year to the third year here in Orlando at IMSH 2013?
Well, we've seen growth in the number of submissions, the number of participants. More people coming to see the arcade, more interest. We've also seen growth. People are working on new novel platforms. They're working on iPads. They're using Unity 3D. They're trying out multiplayer systems where people play simultaneously alongside one another. I think that shows tremendous growth from where we were just 2 years ago.
So you mentioned something about the iPads, and so without being brand specific, how important do you think that the mobile application is going to be, not only to game-based learning, but particularly game-based learning in a clinical environment?
I think tablet computers are going to transform the way that we do simulations in games, especially when we talk about games for health, medical education, etc. They allow portability, they allow interactive collaboration, they allow a lot of things that you don't get necessarily with a desktop computer. And so I think that tablet computers are really going to transform how we think about computing. They're going to make it more ubiquitous, more collaborative, etc.
So I'm going to bring up a name of one of our colleagues and mentors from GLS, and that's Jim G.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he's got, as prolific as he is, he has a new textbook out, but many people here are familiar with what video games have to teach us about learning and literacy, and he makes the argument in that text that clinical professions are in fact distributive by nature. And I've really made the connection between how mobile gaming devices or mobile applications for devices themselves allow those games to become teaching tools and later cognitive aids for practice. I'm wondering what you think about that in the terms of what you know about Jim, and having worked with him and worked with me for a number of years on various projects.
So I think that what you bring up is a really interesting point. What we see with the kind of ubiquity of computing devices now is that if you walk in a clinical professor's or clinical practitioners' space of practice, and you look on the walls, and the first thing that you'll see are books, volumes and volumes of books containing lots and lots of information. You can now have all that information in a single device that's the palm of your hand. Now, not only can you have that information in the palm of your hand, you can also have the experiences that information entails, the experiences necessary to mobilize and use that information in a way that you didn't have before. So you can have the experience of intubating a patient and practice that before you go and do that, and that's just-in-time practice. So what we're seeing is not only just-in-time information, but also just-in-time practice, and in some cases just-in-time feedback.
Yeah, that's great. That's I want to thank you for your time and coming down and making the time to spend with us in your very busy week. as you head into the spring semester here. So if you had any parting words of encouragement for those people experimenting in the game-based learning space, or anything you were words of encouragement for next year, what would your parting words be for us?
My words of encouragement would be keep up the good work. You're doing excellent work so far. I think that I would say keep experimenting, keep playing other games, play games and see how you can bring fun and motivation into your own simulations and games, and also keep thinking about how you use verbs in a virtual space, the doing in a virtual space, to express and attain a certain set of learning objectives. So how you use the doing to motivate learning. I think that connecting those two very closely is extremely important.
Well, Ben, I want to thank you,
Eric.
thank you for coming to join us, and it's great to see you.
eye to eye here.
And we're going to try and talk you into San Francisco next year.
Oh, okay. Well, twist my arm.
It's twisting. We're twisting.
All right, thank you.
Thanks so much, Ben.